What's up, guys? So I'm gonna do 5 things you should do in the buying and after you purchase your Duramax. So, and these are things that I learned the tough hard way. So these trucks are like tanks. They can be very, very reliable. They're very well built. They put out good power, good torque numbers. My '07 Classic has 360 horsepower and 660 foot-pounds of torque, or 350 horsepower, which all those numbers blow away what my Ram was. But they have some areas that you have to beware of. And when I went shopping for a Duramax, I did a lot of research. What did I want? What was I looking for? What things, changed over the years? What was the best option? Because I was actually looking at all three of the big three. And I was looking at Ford, Dodge, and Chevy. And after watching PowerstrokeHelp.com, I pretty much realized, that guy's a big Power Stroke guy, but let me tell you, he knows how to talk you out of buying a Power Stroke. I pretty much realized, you know what, I don't want a Power Stroke. I know there are going to be guys on here that are like, oh, they're great trucks, blah, 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 blah. You're right. If you get a good one, they're great trucks. If you get a bad one, they are money pits. And I couldn't afford to get one that had low enough miles that I'd feel comfortable knowing that the person who took care of it, or who had it, took care of it. Dodge, my biggest issue with them is their motors are amazing. You can't beat the Cummins as far as reliability goes. They put out good power, they're reliable, they're easy to work on, all of that stuff, but their transmissions stink. I have my step grandfather owns an '06, '07 Dodge Ram 2500 with the Cummins, and he's got he only uses it to pull his trailer, and he's got maybe 65,000 70,000 miles on it, and he's already had to have the transmission rebuilt. So I knew I didn't want to go that way, because I couldn't afford one that was cheap enough for me to feel safe or comfortable with the transmission. And so, and even then, 55,000 miles, 60,000 miles, and he's already had to put a transmission in it. So I didn't trust the transmissions. So I was left at Chevy, and I knew I didn't want an LB7 because of the injector and head gasket issues. I know there will probably be guys on here that'll be like, hey, mine's where. You're right. Again, if you can afford one that has been taken care of, then they're great trucks. A lot of guys use those trucks for hot rodding because they're just tanks once you address those issues. I was pretty sure I didn't want an LLY, just because they had some of the same injector problems and head gasket issues, and so I also didn't want to have to deal with the turbo mouthpiece. So and I wanted a 6-speed transmission. Same with the LB7. I wanted a 6-speed transmission. So then I looked at LMMs, LMLs. Those were all out of my price range, on top of the fact, well, not all out of my price range. Out of my price range if I wanted to delete them, and get rid of the, the diesel particulate filter, the DPF. And if it was an LML, then it would be the DPF and the diesel fluid. So DEF. So I knew I didn't want to deal with any of that. So that left me pretty much right at the LBZ 0607 classic. Chevy's stupid because they do everything in half years. So 06.5 to 07.5, which leaves you very narrow 1 year margin there. LB7 or LBZ, and it had the 6-speed transmission and did not have the exhaust emissions stuff on it. It has a cat, but that's it. And it does have an EGR, but put a blocker plate on it and boom, you're good to go. So anyway, so the first thing is do your research, figure out what you're willing to deal with. What things are you willing, what's your price range, and go from there. I bought my truck, had 167,000 miles on it. Still a lot of life left in it. I figure if I can get another 150,000, for me, that's about 12 to 15 years worth of driving. That was one of the reasons I did go with it, and I knew the Allison transmission could handle that. I've seen guys with 500,000+ miles on their trucks, or almost 500,000, running the same Allison transmission as long as it's been taken care of. So to me, that was a huge selling point. Sorry guys, I haven't had my coffee. So first thing, do your research. Second thing is, if this is your first diesel pickup, like it was mine. Now, I've run semi-trucks, box trucks, and they're the same but different. And what I mean by that is that those big semi-trucks, they have big parts, big bearings, big everything. They're not as affected by some of the beatings that they get. Whereas the smaller passenger size diesel trucks, they are built with passenger style stuff in them. So they don't have the big bearings. They don't have the big, the big parts like a big cat. And you have to be careful. Like I said, they're built like tanks, but they are, especially the Duramaxes, are very susceptible to fuel contaminants and fuel system issues. And it was really difficult when I bought the truck. I was like, okay, this feels good. It's a little loud, but I'd run big cat motors, and so I didn't think much of it. And I'd done my research, and I knew one of the first things I wanted to do was a lift pump, and just to help out the life of the injection system and the CP3, and hopefully extend that life so it's not something I was going to have to replace right away. But it was noisy, and it took a lot of trial and error for me to finally nail down what was going on and what I needed to do. And then I ran into issues. You have to pay very close attention how you put your lift pump on if you're installing it yourself. I got the return line and the feed line that feeds to the motor, because they come out the same way. I got those crossed, and I was getting a P0087 when I would get on the throttle, and it was because there wasn't enough fuel being returned for it to feed the injection system properly. So fix that by correcting that issue. And then it just ran a little rougher than, it would smoothen out sometimes and run really good, and then other times it was really rough. So I decided to change the fuel filter, and I did a cat adapter fuel filter swap. So now I'm running a cat, I think it's a 1R-0750 cat filter on it. And that's working great. It has definitely helped. And things seem to be running great. And then this weekend I ran the injection cleaner through it. And I think that it's now at where it should be. But there was a lot of ups and downs of thinking I was going to have to replace injectors or a CP3 or, what was going on. And so if you're a first time, I would say your second thing you need to do is make sure you get it into a mechanic before you sign the papers. Make sure a good diesel mechanic has looked it over, because they're going to know, yeah, that sounds right. No, that doesn't. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, no, that's not. And then once you've done that, you can check your other stuff, the basics, the fluid levels, your tie rod ends and all of that stuff can be checked out. You can, those are all the same on regular vehicles. But when you're dealing with a turbocharger and you're dealing with a fuel system that can be very picky, you want to make sure that you have somebody look at it. I didn't, and it almost cost me a ton of money, and it still may down the road cost me money. I thought I knew everything I needed to know because I'd been doing my research for a while, and that wasn't the case. So make sure you get it into a good mechanic. The third thing I would say is, once you do get it, let's say you get it and you have decided, or you find the truck, you've had it looked over, just do all of the fluid change. Don't hold off. Even if everything looked good on these trucks, at least on my 07, there's a drain plug for every area, for the front axle, the transfer case, rear axle, transmission. Do a full fluid change, so when you did it. Change your front end fluid and your rear diff every year. Change your transfer case every 2 years at minimum. I would make sure that you're checking your fluids every season. Just get under there, open up the thing, feel, make sure it's in there good. If you have some leaks, make sure that you're addressing those. So do that. Change your fuel filters first thing. And change your oil. All of your basic maintenance stuff have done. Make sure you have the alignment checked and anything tightened up there. Once you do that, then you know where your maintenance stands and you can go from there. And I would say for me, every year I'm going to have, in the spring, before I get ready for my camping season and I'm pulling my trailer, I'm going to do fuel filter changes, oil filter, and my diff changes. All in, and you can do it all in one day. It's not that difficult. Just set aside a day and about $200 in filters and fluids and do it. And then in the fall, change your oil and check your fluids and check everything to get you through the winter. And then spring, early summer, do your full fluid change again. That's the way I'm going to do it. I might change my oil, kind of in the middle there, depending on how many miles I put on it. Just because I'm running Dello 1540, it's a conventional oil, and so I'll change it, probably, about midway through summer. I'll just change the oil, not the filter. Get yourself a good filter, just change the oil. You should be good to go. So just keep an eye on the fluids, keep an eye on your filters, make sure you're taking care of that stuff. The fourth thing you need to do is, as soon as you get it, if you've got a truck that's got 100,000 or more miles, get yourself a lift pump. They're $550 ish. I did my research and I didn't find enough of a difference between all of the lift pumps to justify the money. So I just got a basic AirDog 100. I'm not running any huge horsepower numbers out of here. If I hit 400, it's lucky. But just do a get a lift pump, get it taken care of. Your injectors will thank you, and your CP3 fuel pump will thank you. You'll get a lot more life out of those things because there's more filtration. They've got on the AirDog 100 and the fast systems, they've got a fuel water separator. They've got a down to 2-micron filter. That's the reason I put a cat filter on here, is because it's 2-micron absolute, meaning it's not just down to 2 microns, it is 2 microns. So having that on there is just going to help save those parts that can be very detrimental with contamination. Having that water separator, it's easy. Just get under there I get under there every 2 weeks. Just drain the water out. You'll see the water come out, and then you'll see it turn yellow, and it's diesel, and you just tighten her back up. Piece of cake. There is a lot of maintenance stuff that goes into running these diesel trucks. They're going to give you lots of power and lots of fun and lots of torque, but there is some maintenance to go along with it. So that's the fourth thing. So first thing, do your research before buying. Second thing, if you've never owned a diesel, have a good diesel mechanic look it over for you to make sure it's in good running order. Third thing, change all your fluids, make sure you're all set to go and you've got everything done and you know when it's been done, and you can be sure of that. The fourth thing is get a lift pump. And then I would say the fifth thing to do with your new diesel truck is have fun. Just have fun. Enjoy it. I love my truck. I've probably put $2,000 into it since I got it. Mostly into just stuff, but enjoy your truck. Enjoy spending time with it. Enjoy doing things. And as long as you keep it maintained, it's going to give you a long life. So anyway, guys, those are my 5 things to do with your diesel truck when you first get them, and things that I've learned. You have a great day, and I will catch you in the next video.